To this chat now, the uMkhonto weSizwe party will take to the Moses Mabhida Stadium today to celebrate its first anniversary. The political party was launched last year with expelled ANC member and former President Jacob Zuma at the helm. The newcomer then went to contest the May general elections, achieving surprising support and becoming the third largest party in the country. The party has 58 representatives in parliament. This year, the party went on a recruitment spree, seeing several members across the floor from various political homes. The party has been faced with its own challenges, including a legal battle on the legitimate founders of the party. We are now joined by cultural expert and political commentator, Professor Musa Xulu. Professor Xulu, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. What do you read into the MK party celebrating its first anniversary, and also what it's been able to do throughout this year with the ability of attracting some senior members from other political parties?
Well, Aldrin and your viewers, I think, as everybody has been saying these days, MK party surprised a lot of us, even ourselves as analysts and commentators. We didn't see it coming, because I think a lot of work that was done when Mr. Zuma was forming the political party was done in semi-underground kind of situation. So we couldn't see them coming, and everybody, during the electioneering time, political parties were moving in and out, and we could see them that they are busy campaigning. But then really, when on the 29th, by the afternoon, we began to hear the news that they are winning many wards, especially here in KZN, we became quite surprised. But then it's happened now. And I think they have created a new way of forming political parties, which could be very attractive for the future.
Yeah, and one of those ways of forming this political party was an ability to get an alliance of churches as well to endorse the uMkhonto weSizwe political party, and also what it is trying to achieve. But then that all went sour after the elections, because some of the AAA members were removed from the uMkhonto weSizwe's members of parliament list, which then brought about a court case, in that battle playing out in court. Another court battle is the one in Mpumalanga, where they were forced to reinstate the Mpumalanga convener. What should we read into some of these political tussles that are playing out?
Well, for the MK party, it is early days, I think, because also the time it took for them to form and contest elections was very short. So there would have been many people they could discover later that maybe it's not the kind of people that we want. Because it also happened at a time when generally people were seemingly looking for new political homes. And that is the first thing. The second thing, of course, it is President Jacob Zuma's style of political administration to always, shift musical chairs. You will remember when he was president of the country, there was always some kind of cabinet reshuffle, one way or the other, and some CEO of some parastatal was moved this way and that way. He likes moving people around. I think it gives him a sense of being in control and just checking his powers from time to time. I can't see that stopping anytime very soon, because with the elections coming in on the 2026 for local government, the mood in the country is already swinging in that direction. Everyone wants to be a councillor. So he will keep people in suspense until they are elected. Even after election, he can still remove them. I think also their constitution gives him so much power to can move people around, and those people seem to have accepted that.
Yeah. And when you look at the party and where it currently is at, do you foresee any prospects of further growth? Some people have complained about, the internal tussles, that there is a lack of clarity. In one of the polls that we're running this morning as well, asking that particular question, do you think that the party lacks a bit of direction? That's what some people believe is the case. But do you foresee the possibility that the MK party could still grow in electoral fortunes, or would the electorate look at the MK party now and say that maybe all that was promised when the party was launched in December, on December the 16th last year, the party won't be able to fulfill that?
Well, no, you're right. It's a good question. You know, when political parties make promises, they take it that they will be in power. And when they then can't be in power, and even as close as they were here in KZN, most of the things that they promise always disappear because they simply don't have the resources to realize what they had promised. In terms of growth, prospects of growth, let me say this, and I will say it once. All political parties that have been formed after or breakaway parties from the ANC, they always take something away from the ANC and build around it in terms of the heritage of the ANC, the legacy of the ANC, even policies of the ANC, and build around that. Now, if you look at MK parties, just at some stage, when you look at closely, just a version of the ANC in terms of its pronouncements and its ambitions, and what it wants to achieve in South Africa. What does that mean? The ANC remains very strong, but it simply means that every day somebody takes something away from them. And if they take those things away from the ANC, the prospects of growth become minimal because it means they're not coming up with something new. But then the ANC becomes weaker in the process.
Yeah, I was even thinking about the ANC's elective conference. If the ANC goes into its elective conference in 2027, and let's say a new leader is elected by the ANC members at that conference, what that would mean then from the MK party, because the MK party has also modeled itself around we exist to also save the ANC. Save the ANC from the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa. So when a Cyril Ramaphosa is no longer there, what else could the agenda then be?
Well, the ANC could have problems, for example, because it looks like there's a lot of people who now don't like the GNU for practical reasons, not as an idea, but practically what has happened since it started working. So they could have problems if they go, for example, to local government elections, taking the Democratic Alliance or the likes of the IFP and so on. In 2027, there will be a new leader in the ANC, and that is for sure. What is likely to happen is that early in 2028, a scenario could arise where that new ANC leadership will gravitate closer to the MK party and even closer to the EFF in preparation for the elections of 2029. That is, for me, quite clearly something that is quite a possibility because, as I said, there's not much that separates the ANC from the MK party or even the FF because they've all taken, I mean, Winnie Mandela is big in the FF. So they've all taken from the same bowl. And at the end of the day, what is going to happen is that ideologically they may find themselves much closer to one another than with the DA or the IFP, for example.
Yeah, and finally, let's look at the MK party as an opposition party. They were able to win that battle and that debate. That the Democratic Alliance, sure, being the second highest or second biggest political party, because they are in a government of national unity, they can't be the official opposition party, and that was indeed confirmed that it would be the MK party that becomes the official opposition party. How do you think they have fared as an opposition party, considering some have argued the void that has been left by the Democratic Alliance and how the Democratic Alliance was able to use opposition politics to counter the ANC?
Well, definitely, I think they have not really, up to this stage, been able to make much of an impact. And one of the reasons is that when it comes to somebody like Professor John Hlophe, for example, almost focusing almost exclusively on President Cyril Ramaphosa, which sometimes sounds very personal. But other than that, they have not been able to come out with robust debates, like you said, the DA would do. And of course, DA machinery, I think, was well researched. And you can feel that maybe when it comes to researching the actual issues, as an opposition party, the MK party has not been effective nationally. Here in KZN, where there are official opposition with 45%, they seem to be just waiting for somebody to hand over the power to them. It's not very robust in terms of opposing what is going on and so on and so on. Maybe it's because most of those people I knew, they were not in politics before, or maybe it's because the ideology is just too close to the ANC that there's not much of a difference when they talk.
Yeah, well, maybe perhaps they're even waiting for the ANC-NEC to decide whether they want to dissolve the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. And that could then build, I think, create fertile ground for the MK party to then take over and perhaps maybe create a coalition. I don't know if that is possible. But what do you make of the relationship between the EFF as well as the MK party? Julius Malema being re-elected the leader of the EFF came as no surprise. But his stance have been clear about the MK party. But I wonder what this means going forward, even though they still maintain that, listen, we remain part of the Progressive Caucus with the MK party and the EFF and the other political parties as well, and we will keep it professional at that particular level. However, though, what is playing out in the public space is quite different to that.
Well, the MK party and the EFF have been able to make opposition very weak. As a result of, you remember when immediately after the elections, they were defining themselves in all sorts of very fancy terms and terminologies. Now that time came and passed. The time for reality came, and I think when the people started leaving Julius Malema, he became quite angry, actually, that they were going to the MK party. You will also recall, Aldrin, that people like Ms. Advocate Mkhwebane, for example, Julius Malema had literally picked them up when things were quite bad, and many others who were actually facing all sorts of problems with the law. Then they left him. He has become quite angry. I watched his moves this weekend and his speech on Friday, very long. He's quite angry, and for him, it may be difficult to become once more a formidable opposition to the, say to the African National Congress. In terms of KZN, if that PEC is dissolved, then I can tell you now, it will be an uphill for the ANC in this province to can muster any number of votes. It will be a real uphill because the ANC lost 17% nationally, and they lost to Jacob Zuma. And Jacob Zuma is much a bigger figure, having been a president of the ANC, than this youthful PEC in KZ, and most of whom at some stage admired him quite a lot. So maybe it's people at Luthuli House who should be standing up to match Jacob Zuma. I heard Figile Mbalula, the SG, saying he's a Ferrari, and the guys in KZN are Toyota Conquest. However they look at it, they have to own up that they lost 17%. And between, if you look at 2019, they've already lost 22% of the vote. And it's not looking good nationally. Yeah.
Professor Xulu, thank you so much for making time for us. A cultural expert and political commentator there on the MK Party's first anniversary, those celebrations taking place at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. And that is where we find our reporter, Pilam Tembu, who has been covering the build-up to this